Hey, once more, welcome to the You Can Be Anything podcast, a platform where we talk about every and anything which impacts our life on this journey of becoming our best versions. On the podcast today, I am honored to be talking to someone I met during my high school days, Raoul Fossi. Raoul is a proud child of Bandjoun, Cameroon, with imaginary ties to the Salt land. So hey, all my Salt people listening, you got a new homeboy. No doubt he attended St. Augustine's College in Salt, which is where I met him. Today, Raoul is a mechanical engineer with experience in manufacturing operations. He is a developing entrepreneur, the founder and CEO of Skyvue Solutions. More importantly, Raoul is a thinker and a philanthropist. I reached out to him today because I know his experiences, both challenges and successes, are similar to what a ton of us are going through, each with their own unique experience, but lessons to learn from each other. So as usual, the goal here is to inspire you and to remind you that you can be anything. Thank you so much, Raoul, for accepting my invitation. Before we go into the specific talking points, can you please tell the audience about what Skyvue Solutions is all about?
Hey, Solange. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me. Thanks for inviting me on your podcast. I feel like a celebrity now because I have an opportunity to share what some of the things that I've done, and I'm always happy to share my experiences with others, and hopefully someone somewhere can learn a thing or two from what I have to share. Now, like you said, I'm the founder of Skyvue Solutions. It's a drone, so it started as a drone service company based in Cameroon, but really we call ourselves a digital documentation company. And what that means is that we use drones and scanners and other technology to recreate assets, physical assets, and recreate them virtually and make those available to people virtually. Now, what that means is, for example, if you live in America and you're building a house in Cameroon, one of the challenges that you have is visibility, how just to be able to see how well the work is advancing or to inspect what's being done back home. What we do is that we use drones and scanners and other artificial intelligence to capture the house physically in Cameroon, create a model or 3D model of the house that we can now upload through our softwares and make those available to you in the US. Using the models that we create, you can not only visualize the building from the outside, you can actually go inside the building and travel through the space, but you can also even make measurements to confirm dimensions and all that. So that's just one example of what our company does, but that also applies to many industries like the telecom industry for inspecting cell towers, insurance companies, for recently where there's an incident at Sonara in 2019, we worked with the insurance company to recreate that whole blast zone in 3D. So that in a nutshell is what we do.
That is interesting. So again, for those of you who are building homes, you have the opportunity to live the experience, to see all the work that is being done. If you contact companies like Raoul's, please stay tuned to the end of this episode, because at the end of this episode, Raoul is going to be sharing a snippet of his writings. He will be sharing with us 10 points drawn from his writings. I think I mentioned that he is also a writer. So I bet you're going to find a lot of value in what he has to share. Let us call it an opportunity for you to pick out a life's mantra if you don't already have one. So please stay tuned to the end of this episode in order to be privileged to get that kind of knowledge out of Raoul. Thank you once more, Raoul. Thanks for telling us about Skyvue Solutions. So if we go into what we are here for today, one of the first things I would like to begin with is ask you, One thing you wish you had known before you started your company.
So before I get into that, I like to start all my kind of conversations or discussions on challenges by acknowledging that a lot of my positions and a lot of my thinking comes from a position of privilege, right? I think oftentimes because we tend to want to overstate, over accentuate our own personal achievements and our own contributions to our achievement, and overlooking that the fact that a big part of our success in life comes from the circumstances in which we were born, comes from the people that are around us, and that there's a lot of people that are much more intelligent than us, that work harder than us, that don't have as much success, just because they were just born in different circumstances. So, I always want to start anything I say by just kind of recognizing that blessing that I've had, and also saying that, no matter what I talk about in this podcast and what I say, I am ultimately very, very grateful for the position I'm in, and I take that, very seriously. Now,
that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that again. Not everybody agrees that they come from a position of privilege. Most of us always just want to be victims. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing, my simple example for this is always, I tell people all the time is, like, if you're born with one leg, you're just never going to win a marathon, no matter how hard you work, right? So we all, some people have one leg, some people have two legs, and we have limitations that we're born with, and those don't have to be physical. It could be the environment you're born into. It could be the family you're born into. Not everyone has the opportunity to do certain things, even if you're, the smartest person. And so by us being successful is not just because we're the best of the best. It's just that we were kind of lucky, and it's important to recognize that. There's a lot of information that if I had known in the beginning, I probably wouldn't have gone into it. So I would say nothing. I would say that there's nothing that I wish I would have known, because if I knew what I know now, I don't know that I would have wanted to embark on this journey. Now, that being said, it would have been nice. It would have been nice to know that there was a pandemic coming. Yeah, that was definitely that would have been very good information to have at the time, because the last thing you want to do is start a business and then everything shuts down because the world is going crazy.
That's true. Yeah, I agree with you. If anybody knew, many things would have changed. Many people now have invested in other things. Others would have invested more in some other things. So I agree with you. And so far on your journey, right? What will you say is your biggest success and failure, and what have you learned from it?
So by far, my biggest success has been my team. There's nothing that I am more proud of than the team that I put together in Douala. I have built a team that is really centered. I mean, I built a culture at our office in Douala that's centered around integrity, hard work, and respect of each other.
Yeah.
And there's everyone that we have a team right now in Douala of 3 people, and as crazy as it sounds, in Douala we don't have work hours, right? We don't have start time or end time. There's a lot of flexibility in Cameroon. Yes, there's people. All my employees have flexibility in terms of when they come to work, because we measure their performance on their on results. And not only that, but we value them as employees, and they know that, and they understand the vision, and they're very dedicated to what they're doing. A simple example of the culture that we have is, I have a young lady that works for me called Hillary.
Yeah.
She started, about a little over a year ago. And when she started, I noticed that every time she came to the office, she would just pick up the broom and just start cleaning up the office. It didn't occur to me at the time, because I figured, she was the youngest of us, and maybe it was just a reflex, like it's cultural. But about 4 months after she started, we had an intern that came in that was younger than her. And it was a male intern, and he came in, and he did not pick up cleaning, and she still did it. And when they came into the office, they would just sit down and she would do the cleaning. So I called up the office manager and asked him about it. He said, no, nobody asked her to do it. She just does it instinctively. I said, but what about the male? How come we don't do anything? And he said, we just don't think about it. If she's doing it, then we don't worry about it, right? And it's one of those things where, I had to call that to everyone's attention and say, no, I understand that, I understand that she wants to do the cleaning because that's how she's raised. But from a professional standpoint, we're all the same. And so if there's cleaning to be done, then we need to be contributing to the cleaning equally. And that just gets people thinking about their job the right way and thinking about each other the right way and understanding that, hey, we are all equal and we all respect each other, and nobody here is better than the other one just because she's a female or we're males. And it's a big part of how we, the culture that we've built.
Oh, that's good. I would say you have a great team. Let's talk about where you consider a failure in your business so far.
In terms of failure, I would say that the biggest things that I missed in the beginning were just a good understanding of how entrepreneurship works. I think I approached entrepreneurship as a buy and sell business where you just buy and sell and make profit and then invest again and make more profit. When in reality, that's not how it works. It's a whole different world. It's a whole different way of thinking. And you almost have to go to school to learn how that works, right? There are steps that you have to follow to really build a business and plan out a business 5 years from now, right? In terms of like finances. Yeah. If I could, I probably should have started thinking about funding a little earlier versus thinking that I'm just going to make money and invest it back. Because you need a lot more. You need money to make money. That's right. So I would have thought about getting funding earlier and start. Even every decision that I would have made at the time should have been towards getting funding. I would have probably thought about getting a partner in the beginning. At the time, we always have a notion. I think by nature we want to be like, oh, I want everything to belong to me. I want to be the only owner, right? Because that's just a mentality that you think you're better off just owning everything, but you're not. If you can find someone to partner with you and kind of go along the journey with you, it's going to be beneficial to you financially and more importantly, strategically, in, just decision making and kind of moving the company forward. So I would say those are the two things that I did not understand in the beginning that were failures in my book.
All right. And I guess you learned a lot from it. So talking about it today means that you learned your lesson. And this kind of takes us to the next thing I would like for you to talk about. What advice do you have to give to someone out there who is trying to pursue a similar or maybe any other kind of business? What advice do you have for that kind of a person?
I think at this point I am like an encyclopedia on this one. It's been a very interesting journey. I have experienced so much, and that's actually something that I'm going to be presenting in my YouTube channel, which I just started. I'm starting a new one just to talk about my experience doing business in Cameroon. Nice. For those that don't know, I moved back home in 2019 after being in the US for a while, to launch this company, and I've been there since then. And so a lot of what I'm saying comes from just being on the ground. Now, the one thing that I would say to people that want to launch business in Cameroon, in Africa, is just the first question I ask is why do you want to do it, right? Is this to make money in a short term? Is it to make money in the long term? Because those are that impacts what kind of business you should be investing money into. And then, the other thing is like, what makes you think that it's a good idea, right? Are you just doing this because someone told you it's a good idea, or because you've actually gone down or, did some study and actually figured out that this is a problem that needs to be solved? So yeah, I'd say those are the biggest things. The biggest things that I would say, just thinking about why you're doing what you're doing. It's the crucial. That's a very crucial part of the decision making, is why are you doing it, and is it a good idea? The next thing that I would say is that, in my experience, the most important thing for you as an entrepreneur is your integrity, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to go through difficult times. You're going to try to convince people to do things, to buy what you're selling or to invest with you. And people will invest in you and not in what you're doing, right? And so for people out there that think about doing business, you should spend time, you should really focus on making sure that you have a good reputation and that you're doing things the right way, you're being fair to people, because sooner or later it's going to come back, that's going to come back in one way or another to help you or hurt you in business.
Oh, that is awesome. Again, just to extend a little bit more on what you've just said, again, is that ability of being able to understand what you're doing, have that integrity, because why do people support businesses? It's what kind of service you offer, what is the reputation of this business. Again, I know that one of the things that makes me to go back to a business that I probably support, or maybe to a company I buy from, is my experience, is how they treat me. So again, I believe that this all boils down to the same idea of what kind of integrity you have and how the service and what kind of services you offer, your customer service, let me call it that way. So I believe it's the same kind of idea. Okay, that is...
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that is awesome.
Absolutely. And I think one thing also that I'm actually stressing on is the integrity of the business owner. Okay. Right? It's not just the integrity of the business, it's also integrity of the owner of the business.
All right.
Right. Because people will listen to what you have to say if they know that you're someone that's reliable, they know that someone that has is trustworthy.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you so much. And so what are some of the great resources, right, that have helped you along the way? What is one thing that you've either read or one thing you've listened to that has inspired you on this journey?
So one thing with me is that I read a lot. I am constantly educating myself. I read audiobooks, podcasts. One book that I read a few years ago that really changed everything for me is called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That was a book that was definitely a turning point in my life, and I would encourage anyone to really check it out and read it, because that book has a lot of value. It certainly did for me. And like I said, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Some of the podcasts I listen to are This American Life, Radio Lab, TED Radio Hour, Hustle, it's called Hustle something. I have a whole list of them. I think there's probably 10 different podcasts I listen to, very, very interesting ones. Nice. Yep. And then also, I just, a few months ago, I found Clubhouse, and it's been a game changer for me. I have met Clubhouse. If you don't know about Clubhouse, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. You gotta find it and go get in there and start interacting with people. It's a really good platform for meeting people and learning. I have met a lot of good contacts through it. I have actually made some business partnerships through Clubhouse, finding people with similar interest. It's the thing of the hour. So make sure that you find it and get involved with
That's awesome.
Yep. And that's it.
Yeah.
And then just the people around me, just talking to people, listening with intention, not just, listening, but just really listening to what people say. And that's it.
That's right. Again, just going back to Clubhouse, I know I heard about Clubhouse in my Salesforce community a while ago, but I didn't really care to join. But when I had a little chit chat with Raoul and he mentioned it, I decided to join Clubhouse. And I bet you, I've been there for a day or two, and I love it. He just told me earlier before our call that it can be really addictive. So I hope I don't get addicted. But so far, I love what I see in there. And yes, you should join Clubhouse too. There's a lot of resources in there. There is a lot of networking. And why not? I'm on it. Raoul is on it. You should join too. So there's a lot to learn from there. Thanks for actually pushing me to creating a Clubhouse account, Raoul. Yes.
Yes, awesome. Of course. Yes, of course.
Now let's talk about influence, right? Tell us about 3 people in your life that you think have been really influential to this point, to where you are today.
So obviously, the biggest influence is my parents. I don't think I can speak enough on how much they've influenced me. I like to, I take a lot of pride when people
Oh,
compare me to my dad, because he's a very exemplary man, and I really model myself after him. And then, and my mom, I mean, she has been my rock. A big part of who I am today is because of her. Together, they made a lot of sacrifices. And like I said, they put me in circumstances where I was able to be who I am. I was able to be successful. And by far, they are the most important influence that I've had. Now, from a professional standpoint, from moving back home and starting my company, I'd say the person that has had the most influence on that has been my second in command, Michel. Michel has been, I don't think I can overstate the value that he has had in the success of Skyview. He has been there with me from the beginning, and he has been, I yeah, I can't find the words to express how I feel about him, because he has been like a partner, like a wife, like everything that I've needed. And he's been through the difficult times with me. We've learned everything together. And he's been the most constant part of my journey to this point. And then, a lot of my sisters have been very present, and my brother, and a lot of my friends have been very, very supportive. My friend EK in the US, she has been, always there when I needed her. A bunch of other friends have been present. And so yeah, my entourage has been very, very supportive
that's
for me,
awesome.
and
And
I
again,
appreciate
we're
that.
happy that you're able to appreciate them and acknowledge that they've had this influence on you. That is a strong step to take. Not everybody has that ability to acknowledge good. So I appreciate you for stating that. And we thank them for doing the great work they're doing with you. Okay, Raoul, let's talk about myths, right? We have myths all over the world. Like, people believe COVID came with myths. We have lawyers have their own myths. And let's talk about this drone war. What are some of the myths in your drone industry that you would like to debunk today?
I think in the drone industry in general, people just don't understand the extent of it. Most people think of drones, and when most people think of drones, they see weddings and photography, and that's it. It's really just about pictures and videos and cool stuff. And but drones have advanced so much. I mean, the technology is so far ahead now, and there's so much more you can do with drones now than you could in the past. And there's also so much opportunity to make money in that industry. It's a very young industry, and it's growing really fast. And there's a lot of opportunity to really get in there and make some money. So I would just encourage people to, if you're looking for something different to do, if you're looking for something futuristic to get involved in, then I would encourage you to buy a drone and check it out, and learn what you can do with it. We're trying to demystify the whole drone industry in Cameroon and Africa, and that's part of our goal. So we have an application that we're working on now that's going to be released towards the end of the year. It's going to give everyone access to drones and ability to really use drone services, and understand the value that it can add to them, and where we've simplified the technology where it's not super complicated and it can serve different purposes.
That's coming.
But that's something that's coming, and it's going to
That's
help
nice.
out
That's
with this whole
exciting.
mystery.
I wouldn't lie to you. I'm already thinking of different things that I can do with drones. Thinking of my daddy back home who is a farmer, what he can do with it. I bet you stuff is going through my mind. But let's go ahead. Raoul, let's put you in my shoes, right? You are Solange here, you are the host. What is one question you think that you would have asked yourself that have not been able to touch?
So I think the first question that I would have asked myself is probably the first question that most people ask me when they come across me and hear that I left the US to go back home. They're like, the first question they ask me is, why did you do that? Why would you, why would you leave, this stability and this, this comfort to go back home and into an adventure and uncertainty, right?
Thank you.
I think that would have been the first question. It's what most people ask me.
I'm still surprised that was not my first question. I asked you like, hey, Raoul, why go back to Cameroon? Why will you leave the American dream? There are people in Cameroon who are doing all they can to be able to find themselves in the Western world, and you are packing your bags and entering that airplane, heading back to Cameroon. That is huge. Not many of us will give up this American dream to go back home. I bet you not many. Some people think about it and it frightens them, because going back home is like venturing into the unknown. Just generally. And again, not to talk about the instability we have back home now. How many people actually pack their bags? Like in the midst of all the crises back in Cameroon, you said it's time for me to go home. That is a huge step. I will not lie to you. So please tell us about your decision. What made you take this kind of a decision?
So I would say that this is probably the most important part of this segment to me, because it's very profound. It's something that I've taken a lot of time, a lot of years to think about. And it's a decision that has required a lot of sacrifice for me, both personally, financially, professionally, on every level. Decision to move back home was a big one, and it's required quite a bit of sacrifice. Now, we're raised, I think, by our culture, we're raised to be successful. Our parents raised us, sent us to school, and some of us travel overseas, to get educations and work. And the goal is for the family, or for you to be able to get up to your parents and say, hey, I made you proud. I am successful. I can afford, to take care of myself and take care of your family. And that's the goal. That's how we're raised. The thing about that, though, is that by chasing success, as we're raised to do, we often overlook the value of time. We'll often overlook time, and we find ourselves in a position where we're prioritizing, success over time. So as I got older, through my readings and through my reflections, I started thinking more about time. I started thinking more, when I would travel and go back home to visit my family, I would see that my parents have gotten older, significantly older than when I left them. I would travel back and go back, and people have passed away. Both my grandmothers passed away. I was here. I couldn't even go visit them. And then, and more as time went on, I started to ask myself the question to see, this success that I'm chasing, is it worth the sacrifice that is requiring me to make to achieve it? And essentially, I was asking myself am I making a fair trade? Am I making a fair trade by sacrificing time, for success? When I look back at the past 12 years of my life, I had seen my parents all together, actual FaceTime for maybe 5 months in the past 12 years. And as I got older and as I got more successful, I came to realize that, that was just not a fair trade to me, right? Because I'm trading something which is finite, which is time, versus something that's infinite, which is money and success. And eventually I decided that I did not want to make that trade anymore. I decided that I wanted to put priority on time, and I wanted to go back home and spend time with my parents. I want them to see me, while they're alive. A lot of our friends, unfortunately, we are constantly contributing money to send back home for funerals for our parents that have passed away. It's very difficult for people to live through. And, at a certain point in life, I just made a decision that I do not want to go back home to bury my parents. I feel privileged that I still have both of them. And I want to be able to be there for them while they're still here, versus just going back home, to celebrate when they're gone, and then wishing I would have done more in the past. So that's really the number one reason why I'm going back. And it is not limited to just my parents, also my nephews, my nieces, but it's about time. It's about valuing time versus success and money. Now, as you can tell, I get pretty serious when I talk about that because
That's right. And I'm
it's
listening to you,
very
and
personal to
I
me.
don't
It's very
know if
personal
you
to
know what
me.
I'm visualizing
And
with the shaft, but yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
and then the second point is more about giving back. I think, like I said in the beginning, some of us are privileged. The fact that we're able to travel, the fact that we're able to have opportunity to be successful, the fact that we're able to go to the schools that we went to back home, right? Those are privileges, and we did not do anything special. Unlike what
Yep.
we think is that we didn't do anything special to earn these privileges. We were just lucky and blessed to have those. And I think that those blessings come with a responsibility to give back. They come with a responsibility to give back, and that's my part. I feel like I have traveled. I mean, I have gotten a good education, gotten good values, got a lot of good work experience, and it's and I have a responsibility to give back to those that didn't get as much opportunity as I have, or didn't get as much education as I had, or didn't get as many blessings as I did, right? And so a big part of me returning is saying I'm going back to kind of share some of this knowledge, share some of this success with and do my part to move the country forward. The other part of this whole giving back is understanding that recently I was part of a lot of discussions before I left my last company. I was part of a lot of discussions where I had to travel to Ghana and Ivory Coast on a few projects in Africa. And the company I worked with, an American company, was looking to invest heavily in Africa. And a bunch of the discussions were centered around controlling the supply chain and getting closer, building companies in Africa. And I thought to myself, it would be pretty sad if we, with all the knowledge that we have, with all the expertise that we have, we just sit back in America or in Europe or wherever around the world and allow the Western world to go back to our countries and develop it for us, and then employ us in our own land. When we have the knowledge and we have the ability to do everything that they're doing. I thought it would be really sad, and I thought that we just need to have the courage to say, you know what, we know how to do it. And although it's going to be difficult, we can do it too, such that when our kids grow up, we're the reference, and they look at us as the reference, versus when we grew up, where the reference for success was the Westerners, was maybe white people and stuff like that. And saying, I want my kids to grow up and think what my dad, or my dad, my uncle, my dad's friends are the reference of what we want to be. And we don't necessarily have to go to America to be successful, or have to go to Europe to be successful. We can stay right here and build our own continent and make things better that way. So
if you know what you've done in this few minutes, you'll be surprised. But that is huge. I appreciate you so much for sharing that. This is information that a lot of people probably hold in them. A lot of people cannot talk about it because they know they have not found themselves in that position to make that kind of a decision. So they rather just bury it in them. Thank you so much for sharing. Please tell our listeners, where can they find you online if they had to get a little more insight on what you do?
Our website, skyviewsolutions.com. We are on LinkedIn, or you can go to our website, Facebook. You can find me. If you look up Raoul Fossi, you will find me everywhere. My name is there. And if you even want to talk to me, just ask for my number. It's not like I'm a celebrity or anything where my number is private. So I'm happy to share my number with people. Even if you just have questions about what we're doing, if you're interested in learning more about it, or whatever, I'm happy to connect with anyone, anywhere. Right now, we're actually going through a very interesting phase of the company where we're raising funds. We've been operational now for 2 years and been very successful. We're finally cash flow positive, and so the company is growing really fast, and we're looking to expand across Africa. So anybody out there that has contacts in other African countries, I would really appreciate it if you could reach out and share your contacts with me. We're going to be traveling to East Africa, at the end of this month. We were just in Nigeria, so Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, Kenya, just all those countries. Anyone that has contacts there, we would really appreciate it if you would share with us either in the construction industry, telecom industry, or just technological industry. Just so we can we're looking to establish operations in outside of Cameroon. And also, if somebody has a lot of money out there that is looking to invest, we're also looking for investors. We're currently working with investors to get some additional funding for what we're trying to do. So there's opportunity for a lot of collaboration, a lot of partnerships.
That is awesome.
So
Thank
feel
you,
free
Raoul,
to reach
for
out
giving those
if
specifics.
you
And just to
are
correct
interested
something
in
you just said you are not some celebrity. Raoul Fossi, you are our celebrity. You are what Cameroon looks up to. So I don't want to hear you say you're not a celebrity. You are the definition of what Cameroon needs as a celebrity and what Cameroon has as a celebrity. I thank you so much for all you do. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel he's working on with his company. And again, don't forget to subscribe to mine so that you can also get some of this. Like more and more people come on like Raoul and talk about their companies and about the things they do, about their experiences with the goal of inspiring you, right? So again, I promised you at the beginning that Raoul will be talking to us about some 10 points that he has put together. And from these 10 points, I bet you that if you're a keen listener, you're going to be able to pick out something from there that will inspire you, something you can hang on to. If you don't have a life mantra yet, just listen to Raoul say this stuff he has put together for us. You might just pick out what you're going to refer to the rest of your life. So Raoul, if you don't mind, please share some of your wisdom with us.
So before I actually go into sharing my writing, the one thing that I want to touch on, one very important point that is something for all of us to think about is we all have our part to play in how things in changing the world. Oftentimes, when people think about changing the world, they think about it as this massive task that is just very big, requires like really, really big actions. But I like to pull people back, pull people's thinking back and help them kind of think about, changing the world differently. I think that if we really want to change the world, we need to think about it as changing ourselves first, right? And changing impacting
That's
the people
right.
around us immediately. Like, to change the world, you don't have to impact everyone. I think you just have to impact the people that are immediately around you, right? Your friends, your neighbors, right? And the best way to do that is in the way that you live your life. And so for everyone out there, we all have the responsibility to kind of do our part to change the world. And to do that, I encourage you to really think about yourself, right? Think about, how do you live your life? What influence are you having on the people around you, on your children, right? Are you living your life in a way that your children are going to want to be better citizens in the future? Do you live a life of integrity? Do you live a life of respect? Are you fair to people? Are you fair to women? Are you, do you treat women the right way? Are your boys and your girls going to grow up with the right perception of how they should interact with each other, right? So all those things put together, I think, are how we change the world. Because if just one kid can learn from you the value of integrity, and then he implements that to his own future when he grows up, then you've indirectly changed an entire generation. And I think that's how we enact change. So I like to read, and I enjoy writing. And my writings are just my own perception of the world, based on my experience, based on my readings, based on just other people's experiences. And so I come up with these concepts on just how I see the world. And I enjoy sharing this with people from time to time, and hopefully you guys can get some value from from what's in my mind. So this one, I have this particular writing is called Advice to the Younger Generation. But I guess it could probably apply to the older generation too, if you feel like it. And the first advice is to be happy. I think we forget that at the end of the day, that's the point of everything that we're doing is to be happy. And so we got to make sure we find and do things that make us happy, or find people that make us happy, or find our own happiness. The second one is to practice. Practice. Intelligence is overrated. I think the society has made us believe that it's all about intelligence and all about this and that. But I strongly believe that a big part of most success in life comes from just hard work and practice. The more you do something, the better you get at it. It's that simple. Intelligence is important, but you will get more success in life by working hard. Invest in your relationships. I think that speaks for itself. I think that a lot of the success that we have in life is from the people that we know. No matter how good you are, if you don't know anyone, you would rarely get anywhere, right? So make sure you build really good relationships. You maintain the ones that you have. Be grateful. Gratefulness is the foundation of everything I do. It's important to be grateful because that gives you. Because at any given point, what you have and maybe on the appreciate is what someone else somewhere else goes down on their knees every night and prays to God for. So, appreciating what you have is a big mental way of moving forward. Do it now. You don't have as much time as you think, and it will only get harder with time. That's a very, very big point for me. We often altogether procrastinate, say, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next month." One thing I've learned is that as time goes on, we only get busy. You never get less busy over time. You will just have more things to do. So if you want to do something, just do it now. And time is not you don't have as much time as you think. Time is much shorter. Before you know it, it's 5 years. Before you know it's 10 years. And you're like, man, I wish I would have done more, 5 years ago. Don't be that person. Find things that bring you joy and happiness and do them always, no matter what. Very, very important point. You're going to go through difficult times. Do not stop doing the things that fundamentally bring you happiness. I love playing basketball. No matter where I go, no matter what happens, I find a way to find a basketball and somewhere to play it because that's how I release my energy and it makes me happy. Don't let your happiness depend entirely on someone else. I cannot overstate this. It could be marriage, it could be parents, it could be children or anything. At the end of the day, you have to make sure that all this you have other people that contribute to your happiness, but they cannot be the sole provider of your happiness. You have to find your own internal happiness and have all these things just add to it, because whether we like it or not, anyone in our life could be gone any day, and we have to be able to have enough stability personally to keep going and to keep finding our own happiness even after. Be rational and challenge your own beliefs. I think that this is something that we struggle with in Africa big time. We are very stuck in just the way things have always done, and we struggle with people challenging those. I think you only grow by thinking differently and asking questions about why you believe what you believe, and that's how you grow. Be open-minded. I think that's the same one. Be bold, courageous, and dare to be different. I think that speaks for itself. We're often we all like comfort. We all like to stay within our comfort zone, and very few people, are comfortable kind of stepping out and doing something different because, what are people going to say or what are people going to think? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, just do you, and just have a little courage, and just tell yourself that the worst that's going to happen is that you're going to learn something. Find your purpose. This is a tough one. I'm not going to go into it, but at the end of at some point you have to figure out, when it's all said and done, what do you want to be remembered for? Give more. Be generous and give more, especially when you don't have. I learned from experience that there are times when, in the most difficult times, I found happiness in giving, because happiness is contagious. Happiness is contagious, and if you have a $10,000 problem and someone next to you has a $100 problem, help him out. Help him out with $100, and by making him happy, you're going to find some happiness. And always think about lending a hand. Respect yourself and value your character. You will inspire more people through the way that you live than the things that you give them. I think I've touched on that point enough about, you cannot. Yes, we've talked about that. Live your life in a way that people will look at you and be inspired to want to be better. Do your part to change the world. As change happens one person at a time, and we all have our part to do. Last one is don't take life too seriously, because it's really not. 20 years from now, most people won't even remember this interview. I don't even remember what happened in 2015, right? So just live your life and don't take it too seriously. Make the best of it.
This is
and just
awesome. I'm listening to you talk and
way.
I'm like, oh wow, this is magical. Thank you so much for sharing this. I'm going to make sure that I highlight these points so that people can always go back, easily find this slot and listen to it again, because this is something I found. This information you've just summarized in this point, I bet you it's a whole lot. I appreciate you so much for sharing. This is knowledge you've given my listeners and I for free that otherwise would have needed to buy your book someday to read from. So thank you a lot for sharing it. And also, please, guys, do not forget to check out skyviewsolutions.com and also follow their YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, from what Raoul says, they're going to have two. One of which is more about what Skyvue Solutions is all about. And he's going to have another one where he talks about opening a business, starting a business in Cameroon. Having gone through all what he has gone through, he finds the need to be able to share his experiences with you. This is valuable information. So please keep an eye and follow those channels so that you'll be able to benefit from the information. Give a few words to my listeners as we round this up.
No, I mean, I think I've said it all. I just want to say thank you to you for having me. It's not every day that we have the opportunity to kind of share our minds like this. And I also want to encourage you. I think I know you and I have talked about this, and doing what you're doing now is bold, right? And this should be this. We need more people doing things like this. We need more of us, telling our own stories. We need more of us just taking that next step and stepping out of our comfort zone and doing that extra thing that we're not really super good at, but we're learning, right? And I respect and I appreciate what you're doing, and I want to encourage you to kind of keep pushing. And I'm excited to see, where you're going to be a year from now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for saying those are like amazing words. You don't want to know how many times I've sat and I'm like, oh my God, this is not perfect. And I had kind of had that reminder, which is one of the things you mentioned in your 10 points, that, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just start. It is more important to get the content out there than making sure that, the gadgets I'm using on my video is perfect. The most important thing here is the content. And thank you so much, Raoul, for bringing my attention to that again. I promise to keep up with this. Thanks again, guys, for listening. Thank you for spending the time with us. Do not hesitate to reach out. If you cannot find Raoul, do not hesitate to reach out to me. He has given me the permission to share his contact. So yes, you can come through me and I'll get you to Raoul. Thanks again for listening, and please never forget, be good to each other, because that is what is going to make this world a better place. Thanks again for listening. Bye-bye.